So what are you speaking about?
I'm going to talk a little bit about information security and information governance. How
Okay.
those two things can tie together, and what are some of the strategies that people can leverage to build a better security program for their partners.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
And you have the floor.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Okay, perfect. So thank you for joining me tonight, and I apologize if this is too boring of a topic. I did decide I was trying to select between a more technical topic versus a managerial topic. I ended up landing on managerial a little bit. But just so you know, if you want to talk technical, feel free to come down and talk to me. I code all the time, so let's hash it out, right? So, but anyway, so with that said, a little bit about me. So I am the security officer for VCU. VCU is the largest university in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Trades between George Mason and VCU. So with that said, we are very active in terms of cybersecurity education research, as well as we like to participate in also. Just one quick plug for RBSec. So we will be hosting RBSec for the 8th consecutive year. This year on May 28th. Today is the last day of early bird registration. So if you haven't registered, you want to go to the conference, register now, right? So with that said, let's go ahead and get into the topic. Here's the agenda. We're going to talk a little bit about the fundamental challenges of information governance and information security overall. We'll take a look at the gaps between various topics. I'm going to go over some key concepts of information governance, how that differs from just information privacy and security. We'll talk a little bit about the IDLE framework, right? And also the concept of the service catalog. And then we're going to connect some of the dots and take a look at, okay, what are some of the opportunities that we can leverage from your enterprise IDLE initiatives, your enterprise information governance initiatives to advance security and grow security in our organizations. So let's go ahead and get started. So the fundamental challenge to us security folks, this is the fundamental challenge. What is that? Clueless user. Right?
Your boss.
So your boss, right? So clueless. I mean, what are some of the typical stereotypes? Clueless, puts on everything, circumvents controls, don't care about security, right? They establish their own shadow IT systems and so on. We had a lot of times we have to talk public folks, and that's sometimes people read well. Right? So they don't get it. They don't get it. But from a user perspective, what's fundamental now? This is us. Right? So this is us, right? The security overlords, right? We're draconian, Dr. No, limits my freedom. The paranoid speaks gibberish, slow and difficult to work with. They're just on their path to make like Of course they are. Of course they are. They understand that, right? So anyway, so we just don't get it. We don't get it, right? And sometimes we don't. We really don't. So everybody's familiar with this picture, right? I think this has made its way on so many presentations. So you have the gate and everybody's just drive around. So this is especially true in today's world. And why is that? So I went to business school, a little bit of background. Did a little bit of computer science as well. With that said, I'm going to try to formulate this in the business school words, which is really we're going to take a look at the Porter's 5 forces. Okay, and see how that applies to our industry overall. So if you think about Porter's 5 forces model, there's a threat of unity, right? Threat of substitution. There's firepower, buyer power, and also the competitive rivalry. Five different things that really shows your position in terms of the market. How would you operate? So with that said, if we take a look at the threat of new industry, so in our world, really, we're talking about IT services. So threat of new entry, I would rate that as a result, because I think the traditional high growth for enterprise IT services or just general IT services. I mean, that has, we're looking at a oligopolistic market right now, but there are several big players, Amazon's, Microsoft's, Dropboxes, Google's, and so on and so forth, that are handling a lot of these core services, data storage, transmission, and processing. So cloud services are still emerging, but that is slowing down, and a lot of these cloud services are getting gobbled up by bigger service providers, and so on and so forth. So there's a moderate barrier to entry for new cloud service providers to come in, although they can leverage some of the platforms that are offered through, say, Amazon, Microsoft, and so on and so forth. Right? If you look at threats of substitution, and what I mean here is taking a look at the ability for our end users to substitute our services with something else. That is extremely high. Everybody agrees, right? So we have numerous IT services that are focused that can potentially replace different service line offerings that we are providing. They're easy to set up. Sometimes they're free to use. So to an end user, why wouldn't you use this? Rather than going through a draconian, IT security guy who just tells you no, or make you go through all of these forms and sign all of these things, right? So I mean, it gets a little bit difficult for an end user to justify. So if we take a look at the supplier power, so this actually varies. So it really depends on the core services. So supplier power basically means, what it is. So we are the suppliers, in this case, we're supplier of IT services. So what kind of services? It really depends on what kind of services we're supplying. And also it talks about our ability to deliver suboptimal service and increase our price and charge without having to lose customers, right? So I think it really depends. So there are some core services that maybe enterprise things like your core HR system, your enterprise, your ERP system, your user management, right? Maybe the enterprise CPaaS, I don't know, but maybe some enterprise storage services and core enterprise databases, authority, and these type of things. So you may be able to have a higher supplier bargaining power for those types of services. But if you look at, say, things like storage, that probably don't have a whole lot of bargaining power. Because if your storage system sucks and takes a long time for somebody to get access to it, yeah, people can store data also pretty easily. So if we look at the buyer power in this particular case, our buyers are our customers, or really the end users. So again, that varies. Right? One, it depends on the service that they're procuring, and two, it also depends on the organizational structure. So if we take a look at, so my theory here is there are two things that really goes into the buyer power aside from the type of services that we're offering. There's organizational capability, meaning how good of a service can you deliver? What is the gap between the service that you're delivering with the customer's expectation? And then the second thing is personal impact, right? The personal cost, not necessarily monetary cost, but if they do something that's out of compliance, what is the cost to them? Are they going to get written up? Are they going to get fired? Are they going to lose their jobs, right? So now, if you have something where your organizational capability, you're not delivering a great service, your organizational capability is low, and you have no enforcement capabilities under your personal impact, so there's very little impact to the user to use something else. Obviously, you'll fall into the lower quadrant. Out of my way, I'm going to use whatever I want, right? Now, if you have a high organizational capability, yeah, maybe folks will think about it. Okay, I can, this is pretty easy. If you have a high personal impact, so every single time somebody breaks the rule, they get fired. Yeah, I mean, they'll probably reluctantly use the services that you're delivering, but they're not like, really where we want to end up is that in the top right quadrant, right? So where you have high personal impact and high organizational capability, so folks are being held accountable, and at the same time you're delivering good services. Now that is the environment that we don't want to be in. But depending on the organization and the industry vertical we operate in, we are not only people. So for higher education purposes, the personal impact is not great, right? So I mean, we are probably sitting a little bit short on that. So for us, we need to start focusing on how can we grow the organizational capability. And when you start looking at those type of things, we cannot compete with every single cloud service provider that's out there, whether it's storage, processing, transmission, and so on and so forth. Right? I mean, the bottom line is some of those providers that are so focused, they can just move better. So do we go and procure those type of services and bring them into the university and help people to transition onto that service? Or, you know, the other thing that we can think about is also focusing on the ones that we really care about. Maybe a core storage service, right? We want to offer a good storage service, or our data is not going to have less of a chance of landing somewhere else. So those are some of the things.
What do you think the percentage is across higher ed institutions for shadow IT?
So I think that highly depends on the structure of the higher ed institution. Most of the higher ed institutions operate in a centralized / decentralized model, so there will be some centralized services, and there will be a lot of decentralized services as well. So I think for VCU in particular, depending on the service that's being provided, I think shadow IT in areas where there's data storage, and there are definitely some, but we are getting a better handle on those type of things. But for other universities that won't name that are more decentralized, where you know each one of the schools will manage their own networks and stuff like that, I think that is just how it is. So it's much more difficult to get a hold on the more decentralized areas, decentralized areas. The ones that are more. So, with that said, though, I mean, there are obviously from an independent perspective, there are benefits and drawbacks with decentralization. And a lot of times, you know, we need to. The bottom line is, you know, we have to understand what are the expectations of the customers, and do they understand the regulatory and compliance obligations that they're under, right? And ultimately, you want these folks to make a decision for themselves. But paying for it. So, with that said, I am going to get to that. So, I am, you know, for the most part, in internal house. I do believe that most people do want to do the right thing. I know we were talking about the these type of threats. I mean, there are some people who want to do the wrong things, and people who are this one. I understand that. I believe most people want to do that. But a lot of times they don't know what the right thing is. So, and we definitely want our people to do the right thing. And really, you think about how busy all of us are. Our day-to-day, our responsibilities. All of these people, they just want to get their work done too. And I think a lot of times as security professionals, they don't understand that. They say, oh yeah, this is useful. You know, they're not being compliant. You have to step back and ask why is that the case? Okay. I mean, is there some problem with what we're expecting in our future? So, with that said, this is a model that I built off of you know someone else who was one of my mentors. But so there are 4 stages, in my opinion, between compliance and awareness, right? So you start at the unconscious, you know, ignorance is a bliss. I don't know, I don't care. Right? So think applying this to security or anything. Right? So then after that, you elevate, you know, through some education, awareness campaigns, and stuff like that. You elevate to a stage where you are consciously not compliant. You have folks who say, hey, you know, this, that, too much work, and this is way too much. I don't want to do this stuff. Right? Eventually, through normalization and stuff like that, you see positive negative reinforcement. Again, more training, more awareness, perhaps automation in the ways for people to be compliant. You have conscious compliance. So people are thinking about being compliant with whatever they're asking to do. The bottom here is unconscious compliance, where things are getting, where your compliance requirements are getting built into actual business processes, where people don't have to think about it. It's just second nature, like breathing, breathing. And then after that, obviously, it's going to go way back, maybe GDPR 2 comes out, or, the California, the California Consumer Privacy Act is coming right around the corner, right? So anyway, so that is a model that I have for, I guess, awareness compliance lifecycle. And if you take a look at this model, from our perspective, we have some strengths, weaknesses, and present opportunities, right? That we can leverage in elevating our community across that model from the compliance and the security perspective. So, with that said, the strength that we have is usually, for the most part, we know what we would like to see in our environment. Hopefully, what we would like to see is also aligned with this, right? Now, we generally know the best practices, right? So your ISO standards, your NIST standards, and stuff like that. Hopefully we all read them, or maybe read a Cliff Notes version of them, right? So we kind of understand the general best practices. We might know our environment, or maybe we think we know our environment, but we really don't. But we know some parts of our environment, right? We may know all of our services, maybe not. Maybe we don't know about IT, shadow IT services, but we know about it. And typically, I think security, again, thanks to the media, really, thanks to the media, we typically get a pretty good management support. Nobody wants a security breach under their belt, right? So, with that said, those are our strengths. Now, our weaknesses. Communications. So usually, typically when I go talk to our end user population, our customers and stuff like that, I would say a joke. I am the typical extroverted IT guy, right? Where I look at your shoes while I'm talking, instead of those in my own. I mean, really, a lot of us are not great communicators. I mean, we are introverts, right? I mean, we like to get our stuff done. We like to sit down and just get our stuff done, which is okay. But in those cases, I mean, we have to maybe partner up with other areas and try to leverage some of the other initiatives that are going on to help get our message out. A lot of times, we lack the organizational mind. Maybe we have the executive mind, but executives they just say, hey, you know what? Security, fix it. I want this place to be secure, right? What are your expectations? I don't want to see myself on the newspaper or on TV or a security breach. That's my expectation, right? So, but from an organizational perspective, there's a fundamental lack of understanding of what security really means. So if you ask 10 people what security really means, probably get different answers, ranging from, I don't know, passwords to maybe locking the front door. So, so a lot of times, there is a fundamental misunderstanding there, and you cannot reasonably expect anybody to go and read the NIST SP 853, or read through the entire ISO standard. I mean, it's just that's not a job, right? So,
excuse me, but I do that.
I wish all of my customers are like you. So, and does anybody have infinite resources that can throw a problem? Not really. So, and usually, unfortunately, security has a connotation attached to it. A lot of times, we are viewed as popular, we are viewed as stake. Right, so we go
to the wall.
And that is nothing I'm working on.
Yeah. Good question. From your point of view, are your customers and users the departments, faculty, staff, employees, or is it the student body, or all of them? What's your focus?
All of them, and those are my colleagues.
All of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would actually view my IT folks, my say a registrar or my office of research folks that are submitting grants with our customers. Right? So anyway, so there are some opportunities that we can explore. So we take a look at this, right? So data and information governance initiatives. I think most organizations at this point are starting to take a look at these We're looking at a lot of big data, data analytics that are coming in. A lot of times people talk about authoritative sources of data because we want to see the source of truth when we're doing reporting, whether it's financial reporting, performance reporting, and so on and so forth. So there are some opportunities there for how to integrate security into data. ITIL is IT service management. So for organizations that are already using the ITIL framework, maybe not some ways to tie into that. For the organizations that are moving its way there or continuously improving, which is asking, right? For those organizations, there may be ways to leverage continuous improvement initiatives launched by ITSM, service management chains to help with security issues. So for the universities, because we do a lot of contracts with, say, federal government or sponsoring agencies for research, a lot of times we're asked to deliver a data management plan. So that's the unique opportunity for us. Because the bottom line is nobody wants to write data management plans. And quite frankly, when a lot of times I get to review those type of things, right? So some of the plans are really good, are actually controls mapped to actual regulations and stuff like that. And then some of the plans are, I will use password protected computer and so yeah, right. So and quite frankly, nobody really has appetite to write this type of plans. They want to get it through, get the data management plans, get all these other things quick, and get grants funded quickly, right? Without having to worry about coming through me multiple times, getting multiple edits and so on.
So, Dan, real quick on that topic. Based on what you just said, you have multiple research departments. And from a university, or not from a research perspective, you have research projects at the federal government. And so you have to comply with the FARS regulation. How are you handling those individual research projects? Are you centralizing them, or are they being managed on their own?
So again, it's a more collaborative approach, right? So the researchers, usually there's a principal investigator involved in the research. The principal investigator has quite a bit of autonomy in operations. The principal investigator also needs to put in the funding request for a lot of the say overhead supports for the project. So traditionally, from a funding perspective, a lot of the researchers has the feeling that if they put in too much money for overhead support, they may be at a disadvantage in terms of getting the funding. Because they're asking for more money. Right? So a lot of times, overhead is the first thing that gets cut. So in that sense, the good thing about research submission is that usually the research submission goes through a single office, and that is where we have the bottom go in and help educate these researchers to say, okay, you are applying for this. There are some requirements that are associated with it. I am getting a little bit ahead of myself. But here are some of the requirements that are associated, and here are some of the expectations. And this is probably if you don't have these type of things, you are increasing the risk. So anyway, with that said, sorry, let's get back to the threats real quick. So threats, obviously, our field is very, very complex. I think for every single industry vertical that's in this room, you're probably seeing the same level of complexity. So for the universities, and we're typically operating like a small city, because the bottom line is we don't stop, we run retail services, that's how that's what research. So think about when we were, so for us, we are in medical sciences heavy, right? So we have a lot of associated research, GINA, those type of things. We also have to deal with some of the federal acquisition regulations, so the bar bosses and stuff like that. We have GDPR we have to deal with. If the research is sourcing data from, say, EU, unfortunately, I don't like to deal with those things, but unfortunately we do. you would have to, right? So aside from that, we have the student regulations, so data privacy regulations, students, obviously, person and identity management perspective. Any of you have taken this, I think we're doing a good job at securing the records. But any of the Commonwealth of Virginia laws. So, with that said, there are a lot of changing requirements, at least in my field. I feel like every single one of the fields that are over the same as well, right? There are misaligned expectations from both a upper management perspective. Okay, I don't want to get in the newspaper versus our customers, our end users, security search act. My job is doing this, right? So, and then of course we'll have the low cost substitutes. I mean, this is a pretty good picture, right? And it is unfortunately true. So with that said, we can take a look at some of the opportunities that we have. So from a data and information governance perspective, so information governance does constitute a security and privacy. Security and privacy is only one of the pillars in the information data governance. So a lot of times when you have organizations, and if you do understand, or say if you have board members or senior management that are asking for data, the last thing you want to do is to deliver inconsistent data. So if I'm asking you for a piece of data and I'm asking him for a piece of data, and I get two different numbers when I'm expecting the same number, that is bad. That is bad. So a lot of times data and information governance is not necessarily driven by security. It is driven by enterprise data analytics team. That basically starts thinking about how you can dissect data to make good information and reach out it, right? So in that particular case, we're looking at data quality, master data management, right? Metadata management and information lifecycle, aside from security and privacy. So there's some concepts around data management or data stewardship. So basically what that means is there are certain roles and positions in organizations that are going to be the subject matter experts and be able to make decisions on how data should be processed, stored, transmitted, so on and so forth. What is the source, authoritative source for a particular piece of data? So basically, what is the answer to a question related to data, right? So in VCU, we actually use a 3-tiered model, and there are other organizations that are using these type of models as well, but there are also 5-tier models and 4-tier models and so on and so forth. Basically, in our model, we look at data trustee, data custodian. So the data trustee basically is a VP or a higher type of position that looks at that is responsible for the data quality, the master data management, and so on and so forth for a particular set of data. So for instance, student enrollment records, right? That will fall under our registrar, who's actually data steward, but it's going to go under our provost. Now, data stewards are basically the operational managers, directors, and so on and so forth, who oversees the day-to-day operations involving those particular data. The data custodians, but back better terms, are just consumers of the data who are expected to follow the rules from the data source. So again, on paper is a pretty straightforward model. So data trustee is ultimately responsible and accountable. I'm sorry, data trustee is ultimately accountable. Data stewards are responsible, right? So they're responsible for setting all the expectations of the policies and so on and so forth. Data, collection, dissemination, lifecycle management, so on and so forth. But data custodians are basically consumers. So with that said, a lot of times these type of groups, what they do is they will try to establish a lot of these governance rules around these type of things. And if you have initiatives in your organization, make sure you're in the conversation so you can help to steer not only just from a security privacy perspective, but also also from a perspective where you need to understand how data moves in your organization. Right? So, what are some of the common questions that being asked? And also, there are a lot of those data systems, systems of approach. So concept of the master data management really would, over here, we look at the authoritative data source. So shadow IT comes into this. So for instance, just giving an example. So say if someone asks how many students are enrolled in the school of medicine this year, they can either go to the school of medicine person to ask number, or they can go to, say, the registrar's office to ask them. In the past, they may get two different numbers, right? Because again, do we have systems that are feeding data back to the central system, and also how are we counting students? How are we defining a student? Is a person a student after they pay the tuition, or is a person a student after they go to class? Or is a person a student after we make the offer, or is a person a student after they accept the offer? What about a student or a person who have not registered for classes? Still student, right? I mean, those are a lot of questions that we see in our organization. And I am sure, once you get into a conversations on your own respective organizations, you're going to see a lot of the same things where there's going to be a need for a consistent set of definitions. So, and that comes into the data metadata management. This is really hard because to try and find a single set of consistent definitions for different things that you're, different terms that you're looking for is very difficult. At least in a large organization like us, because people, like students, for example, people define students differently. You may think that student is very simple to define, and that's what I thought when I went into this. So, so you want to make sure that for the core key terms, you need to make sure that there is a consistent definition. So when you're asked how many students are enrolling in university, you can give a consistent number back, regardless of who's answering the question. Right? So data security and privacy, obviously, this is one of the key pillars of the data and information governance, and we are obviously responsible for this. Now, if we can leverage our influence to help guide the conversation, then a lot of times, we can get what we want out of it, right? So in that sense, what you probably want to do is, again, identify the key allies, the data stores, and all your environments, and help them build something like a toolkit where they can build their own processes based on a template. Right? At least if you can't tackle it from the master data and the authoritative source management perspective, at least help them with the security perspective. Because the bottom line is our strength is we understand the regulations, we understand the expectations. So the collaboration with those key people are absolutely imperative. So now let's take a look at the IT service management. So this is an ITIL framework, and this is very colorful and confusing. But basically, ITIL itself is asking for continuous process improvement. We have folks pointing to DevOps and stuff like that, and some people say DevOps is not compatible with ITIL, which I will argue real big. I think they are. But anyway, with that said, there are three core pieces to this: there's service design, service transition, and service operations. That basically revolves around the ITIL framework, right? So you design a service, you transition that service and replace the existing service with a new service, and then you operate the service until you go back to design again. So that is the general cycle. Now you look at it. So these are the 5 stages of ITIL. And if you take a look at where information security is, information security actually lies right next to service capital. So, and that is in the design phase. We need to make sure that we get into that phase. Don't get into the operations phase, all the way at the end, right? Because then you're patching holes. So how do we do that? One of the questions that I got is about my customers. So, and I mentioned one of my key customers are my colleagues, are the IT people. You have to, you have to get in with them, make sure that you are a part of that conversation in the service design phase, so that you can basically bake security into your whole entire service, right? So then you have adequate processes, adequate procedures for escalation, for for the different aspects where you can have a chance of keeping the system secure rather than catching holes. Okay. So from an organizational structure perspective, so this is basically some of the things that I have come to learn. So when you are looking at project management, portfolio management, there are a lot of different things that IT does across the organization. So from identity and access management, which I know a lot about you mentioned earlier, you have network services, and you have to make sure internet is on, people can get to the long-path videos, right? So business application services, so your ERPs and all those type of things that needs to be running. People need to get paid, people need to get hired, people need to separate properly, and so on and so forth. And you have user support services, you have to make sure that you support telecom, system data center, and so on and so forth. And data center probably going to the cloud service management as well. So with that said, information security management needs to be in all of these areas. We have to absolutely get into the service design phase for every single key initiative coming out of those things. Right? So the opportunities, to summarize, for the data and information governance initiatives, so we have data stores that we can have as key people in the organization that we want to make sure that we have a good relationship with them. At least we communicate with on a regular basis, right? We want to leverage the enforcement capabilities from these people while they are being tasked to manage data properly and present yourself as a person who can help them to manage data properly, right? Help them provide some educational opportunities with data facility to the data users as well. From IT service management perspective, absolutely you want to be the best friends with your IT managers that are operating in a lot of those different verticals here, right? Make sure that you are managing the relationship effectively and make sure you're getting into those conversations. And for us, again, we have that need for data management security. So basically, and this, again, I gave this talk a couple of years ago. So we ended up making it. We made it. So the bottom line is, the challenge I was seeing was that the end users won't get this. I don't get an end user. I kind of do this. Sometimes I see frustrating too. But the bottom line is, I was getting the same questions over and over. I was reviewing all of these security things, right? People saying, "Hey, password is on Google. Password is on." So really, we have to. The bottom line is, we got to make it easy for people to do the right thing. Again, keep in mind, most people do want to do the right thing, so we have to make it easy for them to do the right thing. So the complex requirements of all of your regulations, all of your security frameworks that you cannot reasonably expect anybody to read, the security policies you have in your organization that nobody reads. Yeah, so those things you have to translate. You have to translate into something that's digestible. The bottom line is, you present somebody with some 700-page policy, and you ask them to sign off on it, eventually their eyes are going to glaze over and they'll sign off. But at that point, what are you really accomplishing? They're not getting trained. They don't understand your expectations. And when they do something wrong, you say, "Oh yeah, you already signed off on this, so therefore I'm just going to fire you." Right? All of their friends are going to say, "Oh, the mean, bad security people. They're firing people again. They're getting people fired." I mean, is that what we really want? No, absolutely not. That's what channel. But no, because the bottom line is, if we continue to tie a negative connotation to security, we are never going to be able to be successful with our end user base. You have to encourage people to come to you rather than telling people, "Hey." So again, that's my philosophy. Right? So basically, we ended up building an app, and you're gonna be able to listen to that. So here are some screenshots of the app. So our idea was, okay, let's go ahead and identify all of the data elements that we share. Right? So what we would call the sensitive data elements. So like right here, I got credit card, debit card. So kind of here, let's give people some information about it. Okay, what does that really mean? What are some of the applicable policies that apply to this? What are the laws and regulations that are applicable? You really want to read it? You really want to go read, PCI DSS, PA DSS, mobile. We'll give you links to it. We'll even give you a nice video on PCI compliance, right? And that funny PCI song that's put out by PCI Council. But you know, so we'll educate you on the actual red tape that comes with the information that you're processing.
Dan,
Yep.
is that app publicly facing?
So it's not public facing. You have to have an issue credential to log in and see it. But
What is awesome?
well, thank you, thank you. So again, my goal is to build things simple. Right? So with that said, once you select the data types, we're going to present you with the services that are supported by Central that can be used to store that data, transmit that data, you know, process that data. The networks, this stuff really should be living on, right? I mean, you're going to select credit card information. There's going to be no network that you're going to use besides the dedicated PCI, right? And again, a lot of people are not going to understand that. But from the service catalog perspective, ITSM, we want to tell people about these services. Okay, Google Drive, you know, what is Google Drive? What kind of data can we store in Google Drive, right? We want to tell people, for a lot of these cloud services, it's really up to configuration. You can easily disconfigure a file and share it. Give people some information on how do you necessarily configure the environment so that you're not going to cause it. Again, you know, we shot some videos around, you know, safety sharing files by Google Drive and so on and so forth. At the bottom of this, if you scroll down, there's a certain service request that directly ties into the help desk. You know, so if you have any questions about Google Drive, you can submit any tickets about Google Drive. It puts you right into it, right? And then from a data security plan perspective, that's the big challenge. That's the big opportunity that we have. Because nobody wants to write their own data security plan. Also, nobody wants to read your 700-page policy. Okay. So why do you present all 700 pages? Based on the data they select. So we actually spent about a year cataloging each one of our data security requirements. And we map all of those data security requirements to the actual regulations that go back to. And if anyone were to come in here, what they will do is they will select the data that they have, and at the end of the whole entire exercise, after they choose all of the different systems that they're going to be using, they will be presented with this, which is really a condensed version of your data security policies and information security requirements and so on and so forth. That's fully implemented. It's a customized policy. Now, it's still not short by any means. And if you're going to select, you know, PCI DSS and HIPAA data, yeah, you're probably going to get separate pages. But if you select something that's relatively benign, maybe you can get away with 10 pages, 15 pages, right? So there's a better chance for people to read these type of things rather than 700 pages of, you know, jargon. And then from the data security plan perspective, if someone were to use our system to tell us what they're going to use, we can help them generate data security plan with pre-filled verbiage that's associated with each one of the services that we have. So we'll talk about, okay, this service is hosting our data center. The data center is and 24/7 by 365. You know, it's a tiered data center. And, you know, servers monitored by security team 24/7 365. Blah, blah. So you know, we will say all of those things that will normally not make its way into the data security plan. So that is the huge draw for our researchers. So with that said, that's really what I got. And if you guys want to see that system, I can kind of show you. But the key summary is that key takeaways is really what I wanted to share with everybody. You kind of have to. Oh, one last thing. Sorry, I knew I forgot something. So this data security plan actually. So this has the approval for. So whenever somebody completes a data security plan and they select specific type of data, the data is actually mapped to each one of the data stewards. So once they complete a plan, they click on submit. Most of the data stewards for approval. And the stewards can then see, okay, here is how somebody is hoping to collect my data, how they're hoping to use it, and okay, there are some things where they're not using pre-approved services. Okay, I'm not okay with that. I need to talk to the security office. So again, that kind of completes that data governance. So with that said, we want to identify key initiatives and think about this. So we'll identify things about basically anything in your organization where the organization is hoping to do something, right? Whether it's data analytics or specific use of it, or just a simple way of trying to manage data. Identify those key initiatives. Work yourself, right? Make sure that you are a part of that conversation. So talk to your IT units, make friends with all those key IT directors, your IT managers and leaders that manage all those different verticals that I talked about. Go out and buy them a beer, buy them a couple of shots, whatever you need to do, buy them lunch, right? Just work your way in there so that they can make sure that they bring you in when they have those key powers. And eventually, once you prove it out, that they help you rather than being an obstacle. They will bring you in all of these times. So you want to keep in mind that best security is security. If I can find a good way of getting rid of passwords, I will do it tomorrow. Right? I will do it tomorrow. I mean, there are good conceptual ways of getting rid of them, by the way, but I'm not going to get into that. So, but the best security is security that is invisible. Unfortunately, we're not there today. But we need to make it as easy as possible. And a lot of times, we need to stand in our customer shoes and understand exactly what they're doing. Because bottom line is, people want to get the work done. They want to get the work done, and they will do the right thing as long as you let them do the right thing without costing them too much work, right? So with that said, just got a couple of shameless plugs, okay? So, Cybersecurity Partnership. Anybody heard of that organization? Wonderful, great. So the DCSP website is just went live. So I've been working with them.
That looks awesome.
Great, thank you. Please register, please, please. So you do have to go register on that website, and there's an upcoming event on March 12th. It's going to be at UVA. There are two prominent professors that are talking about data science and data analytics, and how it affects cybersecurity overall. So again, vacsp.com. If you turn on the top, the other thing is, so I've been working with VCU and Dr. Farr and her colleagues from computer science, as well as VCSB, in establishing a cybersecurity center here. So the goal here is one, we want to look at cybersecurity research. Also, we want to look at building a talent pipeline, because I'm sure we can all find really good people to shoot, right? So that's good. I know I can't. I mean, yeah, but then again, I'm poor. So, but with that said, I mean, there's a fundamental problem of pipelining new talents into this field. I think the barrier of entry is very high. So maybe they're going to research done to understand how we lower the barrier of entry, and also I think from the other perspective. We are not making a good headway in terms of educating people about cybersecurity as a viable career, as well as educating them on relevant topics and so on and so forth. Right? So in that sense, from an educational perspective, we can see how to elevate education to better use. Hopefully, we can lower the barrier to entry and elevate the capabilities of our students. We can reach that happy equilibrium where all of us as practitioners can benefit. So cybersecurity.vcu.edu. So I am on the advisory board for both of these organizations. But we will have a panel discussion and Q&A on cybersecurity career development on April 2nd. It's going to be in the College of Engineering here. And that's going to be a partnership between the cybersecurity program, DCSB, as well as the cybersecurity center. So with that said, I do encourage that family members who wants to come and learn how to get into cybersecurity. Come on by. So I'll give on Mike Watson will be there to answer questions. As well as
really?
Other folks, yes.
Wow.
But yeah.
You're going to scare people away from cybersecurity then. Just saying.
There are other people. There are.
Okay.
There are. He's only one voice in the room. So with that said, That's really all I got. Do you all have any questions, comments?
I do.
Yeah.
First, how does ISC Square, how can we help you, or how can we partner with you in the cybersecurity stuff?
Yeah, so I think there are definitely several things. So the Cybersecurity Center is still a very young organization, right? And right now, so we do have an all-star advisory board. So people from NASA and stuff like that. I mean, there's definitely a strong interest. And I think from the advisory board's perspective, we would like to see good talent pipeline development. That's what we want. Now, from the faculty perspective, there are certain research projects that they are looking at as well. But so my recommendation right now, the cybersecurity club has been around for several years, and the club members, all students, right, they can definitely benefit from talks from from industry professionals like yourselves. And we typically want to do some talks with industry professionals. Obviously, we're bringing in our students as well. And they're all very, very talented. Dr. Collins, also the advisor, along with myself, I'm also the advisor for Scrum as well. So these guys, I mean, they go on competitions all the time.
Erwin
yeah.
is the president, right?
Erwin is the president, and you know how talented Erwin is.
Yeah.
And
It's been wonderful to voice all those members of that club to this meeting,
yeah.
just so
No,
they can see what we do. Not those are not all already members.
yeah.
We
So
give you some of our flyers to pass out to them.
absolutely, I'll be happy to pass it out. So
Cybersecurity club meet?
so they meet every week. So they're last semester.
Friday.
Yeah, so Fridays every week. So it's a mixture between. So right now they're doing a lot of lab exercises because they're preparing for a competition, the collegiate cyber defense competition, where they're basically given an environment, a highly vulnerable environment that they have to secure from a whole bunch of professional contestants, right? So not an easy thing to do, but they got into the regionals, which is really good. Beat out quite a few other schools, and that's something that they do every year. There are other competitions, but the April event is something that we're going to be doing. I mean, that's one of the first talk series that we're going to do. We would like to do a couple more. I think last semester we did 2. We brought in the CISO for CarMax to talk at one of them. And also have some other folks coming in and talk about more technical topics and stuff like that. But I think what's important for that particular group is so right. A lot of these folks, I mean, they're very, very interested in technical stuff, which I am as well. But yeah, I feel like they need to have a better understanding of all the different career paths that's in the cybersecurity realm. Yeah. So, and perhaps having folks come in and maybe talk about some of those things, how to enter those career paths. What are some things to look out for? That's really helpful.
Another question that I had for you, how long did it take you to put that out together?
So app, I mean, it didn't take too long, about probably 6 months of development time. Really getting people to buy into it probably took a little longer. Cultural. Well, it's cultural, and so the funny story about the app. Originally, the app was like this giant, thing I built in Excel. So it's got like red boxes, green boxes, and stuff like that. So yeah, and then it's got all the security requirements, the mappings on the table and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, so I presented that to our chief research information officer at the time, and he's like, you know what, this is great, this is really good, but this is too much, So okay, it's got to be simple. It's got to be simple. That's okay, fine. So that's where we came down with the app idea. The app is simple. It's still not simple enough. They can get even simpler. I mean, there are other things that we can do with it. But yeah, probably about 8 months or so. Right now for our office research, so the central office research, for any any research project that involves what we call category 1 data, which is basically top tier sensitivity data, so I'll have to go through that. So that is detail. That is generating a lot of good questions, good conversations that I can have with researchers, but I understand their operations at the same time. All right.
Anybody else have any questions? Dan and Dr. Fong, can you come up, please? I'd like to present each of you with a challenge plan for
Thank you, sir.
your
Appreciate it.
presentation and for you securing the room for us. Thank you so much.
Who do we have next?